Hello and welcome to Politics. Today I'm Farrukh pitafi. Once again we are going to talk about Kashmir elections, and then of course there are other aspects. While we see opposition has continued to reject the results, even People's Party that actually increased its tally in this election compared to the last one. But despite that, naturally the process is on. The two candidates that we told you about yesterday are still in the race for the Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. There are other dark horses that are being mentioned as well. And on the other side, there is this issue of two members of Election Commission retiring, and that happens at a time when the government and opposition couldn't be farther apart, and it becomes quite an ordeal. We have seen it in the past as well, that it took the government and opposition one whole year to get the previous set of members to the Election Commission. We are going to talk about all these matters and where do we go from here. But before that, our team has prepared a report for you. Let us watch that.
Minister for Information and Broadcasting Chaudhry Fawad Hussain has rejected the impression of any stalemate between government and the opposition on the appointment of members of Election Commission of Pakistan. In his tweets today, he said Prime Minister Imran Khan will get opinion of the leader of the opposition on the issue in accordance with the constitution, as a strong election commission on which all political parties have confidence is in the interest of Pakistan. Two of the members of Election Commission of Pakistan, Justice retired Altaf Ibrahim Qureshi from Punjab and Justice retired Irshad Kaisif from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa have retired on Monday after completing their 5-year term. As per the law, the new members are to be appointed within 45 days. Under the Constitution, the Election Commission of Pakistan comprises Chief Election Commissioner and 4 members, one from each province. Under the procedure, the Prime Minister, in consultation with the opposition leaders, sends 3 names for each position of Election Commission of Pakistan membership to a parliamentary panel for confirmation, and if they fail to reach consensus, separate lists are sent to the panel for a final decision. During the term of the present PTI government, the issue of appointment of Election Commission of Pakistan members from Sindh and Balochistan could not be resolved for 1 year.
Right. So you have seen the report. Let me also read a couple of tweets from Prime Minister of Pakistan. They appear on your screen as well. Prime Minister says, I want to thank the people of Azad Jammu and Kashmir for placing their trust in PTI through their votes, which resulted in PTI's electoral victory. We will focus on bringing the people out of poverty through our Ehsaas and Kamyab Pakistan program, establish accountability and transparency in government. And he also tweeted, I want to congratulate all successful candidates as ambassador for Kashmir. I will continue to raise my voice on all international forums, including UN, to ensure the international community fulfills its commitments of self-determination to the Kashmiri people through the UN, through a UN-sponsored plebiscite. This was Prime Minister of Pakistan, his tweets. And now let me introduce the panel I've got in the studio. I'm joined by Dr. Vikas Ali Kausar, who is an expert on 2 or 3 things actually: international relations, on politics as well, and administrative issues. And he hails from Kashmir. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Meher Tadar Saiba, a renowned journalist, political analyst, joins us on Skype. Thank you very much, Meher Saiba, for being part of the program. Barrister Asad Rahim also joins us on Skype. He is a columnist, a talk show host, and a lawyer of renown, and quite an energetic intellectual as well. Thank you very much, Barrister Sir, for being part of the program as well. With your permission, let me start with the studio. Dr. Vikas Ali Kausar, let me ask you about the election so far, and who's going to be the prime ministerial candidate? Why don't we know already?
So on elections, I mean, as it was expected, PTI has taken the seats, around 25 seats. It's just a big majority in the context of the AJK. So as it was expected that PTI will be able to form the government, it's there. I mean, 2-3 things are very important in the context of election when it comes to PTI. Of course, there was a lot of heated debates, conversations and all that, but at the end of the day, because I personally witnessed the entire elections voting, and I personally did that as well. The overall environment and the situation, if you see during the elections, it's not about what happened before elections, but on the election day, and overall the participation was amazing. It was more than 60%, around 60%, which was
slightly less than 60%.
58% they say, but in some statistics say 62%, which is huge. I mean, if you see the political participation,
in certain statistics or certain constituencies, because otherwise you are implying that somehow 4% has disappeared.
No, I'm not saying. I was saying there are different sources actually. But if we see, even it's 58%, even it's very encouraging the way people participated across AJK in the election, in the voting. Particularly if we see the gender perspective, even the large number of women came out.
There's a concern there as well. You know, the number of total male votes and women votes, actually registered votes, sees a discrepancy. There is a shortfall of 150,000 women who are less than men, right? That also should be a concern, shouldn't it?
See, before elections, I mean, there were some issues raised by opposition parties at that time about the registration of the votes and the mechanism, particularly of Nadra. But I personally think that if we see the overall context and the perspective, people voted, people did participate. There have been a lot of, discussions and debates from the opposition parties, of course. The problem which we see right now, in past, if you see in AJK, the election results are hardly challenged the way it is now. Because of 2 reasons I personally see. One is, I mean, we see the debate of Pakistan's mainstream political parties shifting the debate from AJK from Islamabad to AJK maybe in their election campaign, talking about the issues that they are very much concerned for the people here. The problem, of course, when you do that, you sort of infuse certain debating points. So post-election, what we see here, it also happened over there, and it's happening right now that people are challenging the election results.
Yeah, but my concern was women, not enough women registering for voting, and that might be a big issue. But let me actually, with your permission, I'm going to come back to you, sir, and then I'm going to ask you about the prime ministerial candidates. But let me first go to Meher Tadar Sahiba. Ma'am, you have listened to the discussion so far. The question right now is, it seems that our body politic, our political culture is so polarized that even in Kashmir, it seems to have overtaken or kidnapped the local agenda, hijacked the local agenda. Your input on the election so far, and do you think that we are heading towards a good place or a bad place?
Thank you for inviting me on your show, Farrukh. Again, I'd like to clarify this. I'm not a journalist. I'm really a writer and a columnist. I mean, I have worked in media, but I'm not a journalist.
You're not a journalist. You used to be my editor, if you remember. So that actually qualifies you as a journalist. Please go ahead.
Last year, but I'm not a journalist right now, so I cannot be called a journalist. So I do write. I'm a columnist. I write regularly, and I have a lot of opinions, of course, on Twitter. Honestly, I did not follow this election at all. Because each and every election that takes place in Pakistan is so controversial, even before it happens, that people like me I mean, I have lost interest in the electoral process in Pakistan at the moment. I don't know what will happen in 2023, but right now I'm not really interested to follow any election in Pakistan. The reason being, all the parties, the opposition parties, before the elections take place, start talking about rigging, and while they say that their position is very strong and they're going to win the election and people are going to vote for them and their rallies get very positive response, and so I find it. I'm not saying there is not rigging in Pakistan, that electoral reforms should not take place in Pakistan. Pakistan's electoral process does not need complete overhauling. I know all these things must take place, but it's disheartening to people who work in a certain area and they connect with their voters and they work hard and then they get votes from any party. Be they or they are from TM.
But my question, was primarily not about the election itself, but the state of polarization. It seems that the discussions, I don't know whether you have seen the speeches of the leaders, it seemed that they were there not to appeal to Kashmiris, but to attack each other.
No, that's the thing. I believe when it comes to Kashmir, Pakistan's normal, regular politics should not even be mentioned. Should not even be practiced. The way elections are fought in other areas, the kind of things they say to one another, the kind of accusations they make about one another, they should not even. The election in Kashmir should always be above and beyond all those things, because when Pakistani leaders, mainstream leaders like Maryam Nawaz Sharif or Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, they belong to the families that have ruled Pakistan for a very long time, and they have an international audience as well, and people listen to them in India as well. And when they go and say that Pakistan government has sold Kashmir, Pakistan government is not concerned about the well-being of the Kashmiris on the other side of the border, but in their race to win an election, they tend to overlook the bigger picture, that on certain matters of national importance, all parties, politics be put aside, and they should all unite. It is not about PTI.
With your permission, I have to bring in Barrister Sadreem also. Barrister Saab, you have listened to our participants. So much polarization in Pakistan's politics. It seems that perpetually so. In Pakistan, only one party wins, and the rest are the victims of some kind of rigging or manipulation. With that kind of competing claims on reality, where do we go from here, sir?
Thank you so much for having me, Farrukh Saab, and I think you summarized it very well, that these are competing claims on reality. Yeah. I find the current discourse with regards to rigging quite overblown. In fact, I would go as far as saying this was a foregone conclusion. Azad Jammu and Kashmir is a special territory. It is a special territory under the Constitution of Pakistan. Its future has been pegged to UN resolutions. What that means, sir, is that when the voter comes out and decides to cast his ballot, he's very pragmatic, he's very intelligent, he's very shrewd. And we saw in the previous election voting for the center, which was PMLN. We saw in the election before that voting for the center again, which was People's Party. And any person on the ground in Azad Jammu and Kashmir will tell you that, irony of ironies, Pakistan People's Party actually committed far more to municipal and infrastructural development than PMLN did, and yet PMLN still prevailed in the previous election. This is because of limited resources and limited buy-in with the center, which is why your average constituent in AJK decides to vote for the ruling party. It is a strategic decision. And so if the PTI is succeeding in the same way that PMLN and PMLN succeeded for the exact same reasons, I find that waving this flag of rigging again and again is tiresome, and these political parties would be better suited to suggest electoral amendments, reforms to the Election Act of 2017, and clarifying as to whether the future is through electronic voting machines or not raising a hue and cry over a conclusion that we could all see coming.
Right. But now in coming days, do you think that this kind of polarization is going to make the work of governance more difficult in the country and even in Kashmir?
Certainly. But I fear that it is a bet that PTI has made for itself. When it was in opposition, there were very few elements it pushed forward that were bipartisan. It was about sharp edges, it was about fomenting opposition, it was about creating a discourse that turned you into, us or them. And we see that opposition parties are only mimicking that discourse because it is effective. Farrukh Saab, are a very renowned student of history, and you know how much PMLN was affected when they entered into a very brief coalition with People's Party in 2008. The PMLN voter did not accept it. For similar reasons, when PMLN again extended its hand towards People's Party during this entire PDM facade, we saw again that voters on the ground that have been voting for Muslim League for generations did not appreciate this partisan convergence. So we have created a very sharp two-party system in which a third party has entered, in which voters vote according to ideational and ideological purposes in which they relate to their party. And a natural result of that is polarization. Elder statesmen and ladies as well of different political parties now need to come together, reach across the aisle, and push through those big ticket reforms that can only happen with large majorities and opposition buy-in.
Right, Barrister Saab, I'm going to come back to you and told Farrukh Ahmed Saab, who won on a PTI ticket from LA 29, joins us right now on telephone. Farrukh Saab, thank you very much for being part of the program. Now that that your party has won, and it seems clear, you're going to form the next government as well. How soon are we going to hear the name of next Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, sir?
Assalamu alaikum. Sir, Alhamdulillah, our party has won the election. We have got the majority seats. But as far as the name of the Prime Ministership of Azad Kashmir is concerned, it is the prerogative of Chairman Imran Khan. Whosoever he will decide, that will be the final name, and I think everyone in the party will be bound to go ahead, sir. This is in PTI. I think nobody will be against the final decision of the Imran Khan. And I think
I get that. Khaja Sahab, we have been asking this question for quite some time, right? Since the election started, and I get that. Imran Khan Sahab is going to decide, and then everybody is going to accept it. My question is, when will that be? Is it going to happen in a week, 2 weeks? When to exactly expect it?
There are days before the Prime Minister, but I think he is considering the proper name. At the helm of the Prime Minister sitting there, he's got the concern from the agencies and other his own information department and party plots, as you can say, the cabinet, the core committee is also there, and I think Imran Khan knows the politics of the Kashmir, and as well as we will give a message to the across the LOC.
On winning in the elections, and thank you very much for your precious time. Let me come back to the studio. Dr. Vikas Kausar, we were talking about, and I left you with the question about the potential Prime Minister of Kashmir. Who do you see as the main candidate?
So just before, once you were asking about the time of the announcement of that, it's by 30th July, I guess the tenure of that the previous government would end, and I guess they have to decide within 2-3 days.
Okay.
And people have to take, these members have to take the oath before that.
Right.
So it's not a matter of more than a week, even less than a week, I guess.
Okay.
Now, on the premiership, I mean, this is some of the one of the very million-dollar question right now in AJK's politics, because people are, judging based on different. This also is
$1 million question
for
literally.
Yeah, it seems so, right.
Literally, I mean, $1 million are in play.
Because why I'm saying that? Why I'm saying no, not in that context. I'm saying because this is also an indication of a weak party system, particularly, or a centralized decision making in a particular structures. Because I guess once you have the party leadership, I mean, things should be very much clear from the beginning. This is quite controlled system, I must say, when you try to decide at the, and keep this thing in a way that will decide at the, at the
Yeah,
time
but
when
this
of
is
their own choosing.
centralization of politics. Actually, it comes counter to the politics of federalism.
So, because
but unfortunately, that has been overall trend. All major parties are monopolizing at the center.
There's a reason to that. I mean, it can't happen with the parties, those who are AJK based particularly. It never happened past with them because the leadership was quite obvious. People know that who will be their candidate. So when it comes to PMLN particularly, last time there was a lot of hue and cry about different options, and now for PTI, Barrister Sultan Mahmood, who is the chairman of the party, is one of the candidates, and some other members as well. So, but the question is not about who will become. The question is about the process, one. And second, I would like to say, when people are saying about the election results and all these things, I mean, this is fundamental problem here in Pakistan as well, elsewhere, in AJK as well. Parties talking about, challenging the results, that is okay, that's their right, if they have the proof and all these things. But fundamental challenge, what happens to them is, once, the government is elected, they go into the power and they have their, they assume their charges, they forget these all things for 5 years. And then they open this Pandora box after 5 years and doing that. You have to build the capacity of the people. It's not a rocket science. I mean, everywhere elections happen. So you
this
have to
election took place. I understand now a government is going to form. But one concern that we saw, that instead of focusing on the local problems, most parties were talking about politics of Islamabad, right? The second thing is the kind of damage that might have been done to Kashmir cause or Kashmiris because of the aggression in the national politics. Do you think that it is high time that Pakistan and Kashmir think whether it is sane to allow Pakistan-based or Islamabad-based political parties to take part in the next elections in Kashmir?
See, now I guess this is quite difficult now to decide at this time if you want to,
Cat is out of the bag.
Because people have associations, there is no doubt. People have associations with People's Party, people have associations with PTI, people have associations with PMLN. So this is a very quite vibrant, politically active society. There is no denial to that. And Constitution of AJK doesn't stop or put any condition on that. But fundamental question is about the conduct. And also about the narrative you want to build. You have to empower the local structures over there. Now, if you want to bring back the debate, there is one point of local politics there, of the local issues there. PTI has one chance of, restoring the local bodies elections in AJK, because in their own manifesto they have promised to hold these elections within the 3 months of, after the formation of their government. This can, create two things. I mean, this has the potential to create, new leadership, bring in then process. People can get chances. Young people particularly, those who are desirous to play political role in AJK particularly, they will get lot of chances and platforms to do that. And second, the development narrative as well. There have been lot of debate and discussion in AJK about, what was the, other than the Kashmir and all these things, the ruling party, or maybe the people have been promising lot about infrastructure development. If you don't have a properly established local community level governance system, you cannot do that. So this is very important.
That's very valid point. But I saw, actually at the start of this program, I read the tweet of Prime Minister. And remember the last time you were in this show and we were discussing how unemployment is a big issue. It seems that the Prime Minister is receptive to those issues and he might be able to provide some kind of initiatives in the offer that kind of poverty alleviation and job creation initiatives in Kashmir that might help. But I will come back to you. Allow me to actually go back to Meher Thakur Sahiba. Of course, we have been talking about Kashmir elections. I understand, Meher Sahiba, that you were not that much interested in the nitty-gritty, but the result that came was kind of astounding, not for PTI. We know whichever party wins at the center actually usually forms government in Kashmir as well, or Muzaffarabad as well. But the party that came second was People's Party. It got 11 seats, and last time they only had 3 seats. And this time, PMLN, that earlier had 31 seats, ended up with 6 seats. So, and one of those seats is being recounted. There is a possibility that Raja Farrukh might lose his seat. The question at this moment is it reflective of national politics that PMLN might be going down and People's Party might be seeing some kind of resurrection, or it is merely confined to Kashmir? Mehab Tatur Sahiba. You will have to unmute your Skype, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I do. Please go ahead.
Okay. I said before I comment on before I answer you, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say something to Barrister Asad Rahim. I'm a big fan of his writing, and I am very glad to be on the show with him.
Join the club.
Answering your question. I think I agree with what Asad said, that we are people of Kashmir traditionally vote for the party in Islamabad. That's not surprising. And PTI right now is not just in power in Islamabad; they are also in power in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, and in a coalition government in Balochistan. So and PPP is of course just relegated to Sindh at the moment. PMLN is nowhere on the scene at the moment. Anything can change in Pakistan at any moment. That I think it makes a great deal of difference to the people of Azad Kashmir to see the politicians who are running in the election and the leadership that is supporting them, walking the talk. Talking the walk, okay, like doing what, at least showing in action what they are saying. Mariam Nawaz Sharif keeps talking about Nawaz Sharif and his leadership and how he's committed to the cause of Kashmir and how much he's committed to the well-being of Pakistan. But then on the other hand, everybody in Pakistan, foes and friends, all of them know that he left on a false pretense in the sense that he promised that he would be back after his treatment, and that did not happen. It's been almost 2 years. He has not returned. People can see that. How most of your electoral promises and everything kind of relies on this one person and his leadership and what he has done and what he will do. And on the other hand, people know that he's not there. On the other hand, People's Party's leadership, I suppose, is in front of people, and they must have worked hard, and I don't think it is about PMLN's political irrelevance, but I think the absence of real leadership in PMLN has affected their credibility nationally.
Right.
People can see, the voter can see that even within the party, there's a Shehbaz Sharif group and there is a Nawaz Sharif group, and how and when you are from Kashmir, when you are from a place that has a lot of that has seen a lot that has a lot of grievances against all our governments. They want the government to work for them, and most of the promises remain unfulfilled when it comes to Azad.
Right. One more quick question regarding Mariam Nawaz's politics. We saw that in Havelia she got a big crowd, but we also have learned from sources that her party wanted her to speak only at Havelia, not the entire, not all the constituencies, but she chose to actually go to other places as well, and it somehow seems that the party was not that much into the idea. Do you think, and given that it hasn't translated into electoral victory, is there a possibility that instead of working for her party to get success, she's actually focusing on building her own brand, and that's why she wanted to go to every constituency?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yes, that has been very obvious since 2017. Mariam Nawaz Sharif has been building her own brand, and more power to her. I'm very happy to see a female politician coming into mainstream politics the way she has, and the way she has, she has reached, she has acquired a certain stature, and that's wonderful. But the problem with Mariam's politics, as far as I see it, as a Pakistani and as a voter, also as a woman, I believe that most of her whenever she speaks in public, it's only about her party. It's only about what the government, what PTI has done to her family, and what it seems too personal. Whenever she's speaking to a big crowd, whether it's in Karachi, whether it's in Quetta, it's in Lahore, it's in Gujranwala, it's in Kashmir, it's in Gilgit, wherever she has ever spoken, she manages to get very big crowds. That's wonderful. But I think everybody can see that her politics is not about becoming relevant to the entire country. It's about it's about putting forth her case, her family's case, about the real or imagined slights or injustices that have happened to them, and
her narrative.
Everything.
That's quite intriguing a strategy, perhaps. Allow me to go back to Barrister Saab. Barrister Saab, you can talk about what was said earlier. You can reflect on that as well. But I have to actually not talk about Election Commission of Pakistan and how 2 seats are lying vacant now. And we have seen that we keep on trying to fix the system by improving the legislations. But in the end, whatever we do ends up actually in creating more problems and causing more paradoxes for us. How to actually get rid of that problem? Because at this moment it seems that government and opposition are not ready to speak very comfortably to each other.
Well, sir, firstly, thank you to Meher Sahaba for the kind words. I read her and used to read her avidly when she was writing in the Express Tribune as well. With regards to your question, Farrukh Saab, I fear that the spirit of the problem was really encapsulated with what the gentleman that you brought on who succeeded in the election in AJK said. He said that whatever our dear leader and dear chairman decides, they will be the Prime Minister of Kashmir. And I also fear that all of us are old enough to remember in 2012 when Mr. Yusuf Raza Gilani was disqualified, that our elected representatives, our elected parliamentarians, MQM and Awami National Party said that we will outsource our decision to the ruling party with regards to the next Prime Minister. So the decision traveled to People's Party. People's Party said we will outsource our decision to our Central Executive Committee. The Central Executive Committee said that it is Mr. Asif Zardari, our co-chairperson, who will decide who the next Prime Minister is. This is not how parliamentary practice, this is not how parliamentary democracy works. In terms of the millions of votes that you get, you have to provide, you have to make a decision that has something of a democratic consensus, that is not whimsical, and that doesn't work on the behest of the party chairman. So I was disappointed by that answer, and that has a direct linkage to the Election Commission of Pakistan. We saw with the Election Act of 2017 a consolidation of all electoral laws, and yet despite that in 2018 we had parties across the board cry rigging. So there has to be a greater democratic spirit at work that understands that, number one, it is about implementation of that legislation. Number two, it is about actual electoral mechanisms in which you do not try rigging. You might want to try electronic voting machines. And number three, you want internally democratic political parties that will not weaponize every single election that they lose and make this a part of a process that doesn't really have to do with routine holding of elections, but with the acceptance of who people voted for. So, long answer to your short question.
No, I understand that, and it is a great answer. But coming back to the 2 members of Election Commission, particularly from Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they need to be replaced now. And within 45 days they are supposed to be replaced. But last time we remember when it came to the other 2 provinces members, it took the government and opposition 1 whole year. And in that, the matter went to an honorable court as well, and it was sent back to the committee. And willy-nilly, in the end, we got, the Election Commission. Now, do you think that history is going to repeat itself? Or there is a short fix, a quick fix to that problem? Because evidently our legal system or constitutional infrastructure right now does not give you the kind of quick fix as it is needed.
Farrukh Saab, I wouldn't say a quick fix, but I'm hopeful that there is a collaborative process that the ruling party and the opposition are willing to play with regards to ECP members. And yet, I will still put the onus of this process on the PTI government. They have not really extended a hand towards the Election Commission. In fact, they have regarded many of their actions with a lot of suspicion, a lot of criticism. I'll be the first one to say that the ECP could have perhaps performed in a way that was, I think the word would be less newsworthy. Some of their tweets were rather controversial. It did not behoove an independent electoral body, and yet it is to our benefit, to the benefit of the health of this republic, that the Election Commission of Pakistan has provided full support by this government. I hope, as a citizen and as a very ordinary student of law, that to that end, the opposition and the ruling party can actually decide on members of the ECP. I don't feel this is one subject that has to be polarized as much as it has been.
Right, and that's an important point, Dr. Vikas Kausar. One aspect that is very important, it seems that political parties in Pakistan take their sweet time in learning lessons. One of the reasons why PTI has a problem with whatever happened in by-elections and the conduct of election commission is because they were not the